Merry Christmas, everyone. I figure you probably thought maybe you wouldn't get a Dok video when he's especially salty on Christmas Day, but I got a schedule to keep, and, well, DC and Marvel aren't exactly doing a lot of things to get excited about, and this week we had the latest weird gender swap that I think pretty much confirms that Jim Lee is down for the cause when it comes to all these stupid swaps and getting the message out and finding that right audience. Here to talk with me about the big changes to Wildcats, specifically Deathblow, is Dok.
Hey, what's up, man? This is Jim Lee is fully on board with the entire comic industry's mass delusion that there is some sort of magical modern audience out there.
I believe he's drank the Kool Aid, Dok.
Yeah, modern audience TM. It's not a thing that exists. It's a bullshit marketing slogan that's just code for, well, this is fucking stupid, but we got no other ideas.
Well, I think there's way more to it than that, Dok. But I think for a lot of people, they've assumed that Jim Lee just was kind of an absentee boss. Maybe he didn't really know what was going on at DC Comics, where they're destroying characters left and right, doing all these sexuality swaps, gender swaps, race swaps, doing all these things to the characters to make them less marketable and drive people away that were paying their salaries. But it appears, at least from my vantage point, there's really two things within DC Comics I think Jim Lee gives a fuck about. One of them being Batman, the other one being his Wildstorm universe, including Deathblow, aka Michael Cray, and this week we get a big change to the character. Are you on board with that assumption regarding Jim Lee not really caring about the other characters, but once we start seeing him do these changes with his characters, it's kind of a red flag?
I would say so, yeah. There's a reason why Jim got all the Wildstorm characters involved when it came to New 52. That was the first time he was really involved with the actual editorial operations of DC. And the first thing he did was try to get his Wildstorm characters in there. Those have been his baby for forever because they're fully his creations. If somebody's working with them, I guarantee they're getting the eye of whatever the hell Jim Lee's job is, creative director, CCO, editor-in-chief, I don't really give a shit. They're getting his eye squarely on him or on them. Whenever a change is made, I guarantee Jim's got veto power in there to be like, yo, whoa, hold up. You can't screw with my characters like that. You could do this, you could do this, you could do this, but you can't do the thing that you're asking to do. And the fact that this is happening, and it's already happened, means you got the green light from Jim. So he's on board with it.
A lot of people said when they brought over Matthew Borzenberg, like, oh, maybe he'll do better at DC Comics. I said, I see right through that. That guy writes one good comic out of 5 that he writes. He's an absolute hack job. This is what he did to Deathblow. By the end of Wildcats #1, Michael Cray, aka Deathblow, was killed in action on a mission gone haywire, sustaining several laser blasts during a firefight in which Grifter was supposed to cover him. However, Deathblow is a Wildstorm character whose mind can be implanted into a new body, allowing him to be resurrected with a different appearance. Matthew Rosenberg reveals in Wildcats #2 that the new version of Deathblow is now a woman, and she is not happy about getting killed on Grifter's watch. My oh my, what exciting stuff, Dok. This is really original.
Yes, we're going to just gender swap another character. Now, they have the excuse of, well, it's still the same character. They just look different. He just looks different. He's in the body of a woman. Oh, congratulations. You got your obligatory trans allegory in there now. If you could have predicted, hey, the character whose mind can end up in another body is going to end up in a woman, when he's, kind of I guess you could say he's almost like a stereotypical toxic masculine, Rambo-esque character.
I don't know, Dok. This is what I see on the horizon. So we know there's conflict between this new female version of Michael Cray Deathblow and Grifter. What are the chances that perhaps Grifter finds out or realizes that the new Deathblow is kind of hot and maybe falls in love with the character? Wouldn't that be interesting for modern comics?
It's their backdoor way of eventually turning Grifter gay, and also doing that whole weird affirmation of, trans identity, because it's still the same personality, but now it's in a feminine body. Grifter realizes that he's really attracted to the female body. Then he realizes that he actually cares about Michael Cray. And then when if Michael Cray ever ends up back in his real body or a male body again, he'll be gay for, Deathblow now.
They'll be gay for each other, Doc.
Yeah, they'll just be gay for each other, and it's all so tedious, and this kind of puts them in a weird situation now. Deathblow, I think he's perpetually stuck in this female body because they're gonna, as soon as they turn it into a trans allegory in the story, which is, lame, predictable Matthew Rosenberg is going to do, he's going to use it as a plot point. But now I can't really put Cray, like Deathblow, back in a male body. They just really can't, because now it's detransitioning. And even though there's all kinds of evidence that that's a thing, we're not going to let that happen. It undermines the narrative.
Doc, what are the better chances that because they've done this stupid change on some pretty obscure characters that weren't exactly moving a ton of comic books to begin with, that the people that did like the character read this, said, well, fuck that, and then just decided to nope out once again on DC Comics bring back Wildstorm? They brought it back once again and fucked it up again.
I'd say the likelihood of that is somewhere in the 80 to 90%. I love Wildstorm. It's my second favorite universe. It's the only universe of comics that I literally own the entire thing from start to finish. It's absolutely my favorite comic universe, but I'm willing to admit the fact that the audience for that is already fairly small. Mm-hmm. It is a niche interest publisher, kind of the way you have with Valiant and all the Valiant characters. I know you love those characters too. When you irreparably damage the one thing and like make a fundamental change to some of the core characters, you're already at a hard sell. A lot of the readers that might have been the target audience have probably already dipped out of comics. The ones that are still around were willing to give this a shot, and now you start fundamentally altering, you start Jason Aaroning up the characters. Well, you're gonna drive more of them away. Look, Jim, there's no new modern audience to buy these books. You have to sell it on nostalgia. That's what you started with. I mean, hell, half the covers to issue 1 were some sort of an homage or using artists from the original Wildstorm universe. So you're selling this fucking book on nostalgia, and then you're going to drive away the limited audience that you still had left that might have been there to market this book to. Good job, I guess.
It kind of makes it difficult to look at Jim Lee in the same light. Like, these are his characters. These are the things that he cares about. And to know that he decided to sell them out for the message really just changes the way I feel about the guy. I thought he was incompetent. I thought he didn't really care. And I thought he was just waiting to retire. But knowing that he's decided to sign off, put his name on all these stupid changes that are ruining the comic book industry and costing people jobs and costing comic book shops, they're putting people out of business because of crap like this. To know that he's been down for the cause and he decided to sign on to it and have his characters and universe altered so that he can be part of that really just changes the way I look at Jim Lee.
You know what? It kind of changes the way I look at him too. I mean, I kind of looked at him as an absentee leader. He's a guy that was, just biding his time until he could get to retirement, as you said. Now, it could be the simple fact that he's just resigned himself to the fact that he doesn't own these characters anymore. He doesn't have any control over them.
But he does have control. That's the point, Doc. One guy has control. Jim Lee, he's the boss.
I know. But my point is that the creators that exist in the industry are going to make these changes. The best that he could do is stave these changes off for a couple of more years until he retires or gets fired. Then those changes are going to happen anyway, and he'll have no control over it. So he might as well let it happen now, and maybe he can, I don't know, guide the plane crash into the ground and turn it into less of a giant pile of rubble than it otherwise would have been. It'll still be a pile of rubble. Any interest in the brand will be dead, but it won't be as bad, I guess.
You're really reaching there, Doc.
I am. It is a big reach.
He's going to sully his own reputation because he thinks he could control the destruction.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm trying to give Jim the benefit of the doubt here, and like,
I don't think I can anymore. That's the problem. That's what I'm saying.
I get it. I feel like this is just me wanting to give it to him out of 30 years of really enjoying his work. Otherwise, I feel like he should have been better than this, but apparently he is just the same as every other executive in comics now, and they're all just watching the destruction of everything that was built before them.
I want to say Merry Christmas and thank you very much to Dok for joining us today, talking about what happened in Wildcats #1 and really how it affects our appreciation of Jim Lee, how it affects the way that we perceive him within the comic book industry, and really maybe that he has signed on to all this stuff. Someone that has not signed on to all this stuff is Chuck Dixon, one of the greatest comic writers of all time, forever associated with Batman and the Batman family, just done some wonderful things. Last year, or maybe it was a year and a half ago, Chuck Dixon actually joined me here on the channel. We had a great conversation, and we ended up talking about some gender swaps and other things that are happening within the comic book industry. Definitely check this out if you haven't heard. Chuck Dixon and I talk about the comic book industry. This man knows a lot. He is a sage, and he absolutely nails it down in this interview. Definitely check this out here. If you don't see it here, there's a link in the video description.